How could the very air we breathe kill 20,000 people? 10 years ago, a news story sent shockwaves around the globe. 1 million people affected, 20,000 dead, all suffering from the same mysterious, fatal illness. The culprit behind this devastating disease? Shockingly, it was a household humidifier. The story of this disaster begins with a little boy. He was swimming when he suddenly lost consciousness and nearly drowned. Fortunately, his father, a doctor, was there to perform emergency resuscitation, saving his life for the time being. He was diagnosed with severe and unexplained lung damage. Whether he would ever wake up was uncertain. It was simply a matter of waiting and hoping. Outside the hospital room, the mother was frantic with worry. The husband comforted her, urging her to go home and rest while he stayed by their son's side through the night. He had no idea those would be the last words he ever spoke to her. The next day, his wife's sister went to check on her. When she opened the door, she found her sister collapsed on the floor, cold and lifeless. She had stopped breathing long ago. The sudden, devastating news blindsided the man. His son's life was hanging by a thread. His wife was now in the morgue. His family was falling apart. It was enough to break anyone. At the funeral, the grief-stricken husband couldn't comprehend how his perfectly healthy wife could have died so suddenly. He immediately sensed something was terribly wrong. Her death wasn't straightforward. He couldn't let it remain a mystery. Encouraged by his sister-in-law and fighting through his overwhelming grief, he decided to perform an autopsy. When he examined her lungs, everyone present was horrified. They were in terrible condition, hardened almost like plastic. Yet, even after extensive testing, the specific cause of the lung damage couldn't be determined. However, a colleague researching the condition discovered that the first person to identify this type of lung disease was a retired professor. The husband sought him out immediately. While the professor hadn't pinpointed the exact cause either, he offered important clues. There were numerous cases across the country, predominantly affecting housewives, pregnant women, and young children. Furthermore, the cases seemed to spike in the spring and vanish during the other seasons. Following these leads, the man visited other victims' families. Some patients had already succumbed to the illness, leaving behind heartbroken relatives. Others who had survived were now dependent on ventilators just to breathe. He returned home, utterly devastated. In a daze, he imagined seeing his wife and son sleeping peacefully, as if the nightmare had never occurred. Lost in this vision, the humidifier on the nightstand suddenly switched on. As it emitted its mist, his vision of his wife began to cough uncomfortably. Though just a hallucination, it triggered a crucial realization. Every patient's home he had visited also used a humidifier. Could the humidifier be the source of the problem? He immediately set up an experiment. He placed laboratory mice in his son's bedroom and turned on the humidifier. Sure enough, within a week, all the mice had died from severe lung damage. The cause of death was determined to be the inhalation of a chemical called PHMG. This substance was used as a disinfectant and is generally harmless. However, when aerosolized by the humidifier and inhaled deep into the lungs, it proved to be deadly. But how did this chemical end up in a humidifier? Suddenly, he remembered something: the humidifier disinfectant.